This podcast is a uniting heart and soul production and was recorded on land that was stolen nearly 250 years ago. Filthy Hope was conceived and dreamt on Gadigal and Birrabirragal country. We acknowledge these peoples as the traditional owners of these lands, and we extend our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. We here at Filthy Hope take part in and humbly contribute to the ancient and ongoing traditions of storytelling when we share stories on this podcast. Hey guys, just a quick heads up before we jump into this week's episode. There is a fair bit of swearing in this week's podcast, but we also spend a fair bit of time talking about mental illness, depression, trauma, and sexual abuse. If you're sensitive to these things, please look after yourself. We are also not mental health professionals, and so if anything in this week's episode is particularly challenging for you, or if you or somebody you know is at risk, please seek professional help immediately. There are a number of mental health resources down below in the episode description. That's all. We love you and we appreciate you. Enjoy the episode.
Let's do this.
A lot of the time for me, when I start to feel shame about things, the challenge then is to lean into it and be honest and push through the shame. Because on the other side of the shame is this really, really raw vulnerability that brings healing.
How can I fix this? What's wrong with me that I can't make myself okay?
Close your eyes and go straight through the roundabout.
Right up the arse of the BMW. That's right.
Welcome to Filthy Hope. If it's your first time here, welcome. I'm Jonty.
I'm Ness.
And on this show, we love to spend time in the grey spaces where Jesus, life, and culture intersect.
Oh, yeah.
We're both from Jesus land. We're both Christians. But we love the type of faith that exists in the reality of the world, not in just in Jesus land. I think that's fair to say.
And I wasn't always in Jesus land, brother.
Exactly, yeah.
I was a filthy heathen. I'm just a Jesus girl now.
Yeah, so, again, if it's your first time, welcome. Love to have you. If you're back again for the zillionth time, welcome.
Can you give them the warning about the bad language? Because I never can be trusted, Jonty. I don't know if it's going to be straight and sweet or if it's going to be aggro and dirty.
Could be swearing. If swearing is an issue for you, this probably isn't the right podcast for you. Both of us are just honest, I think.
Keep it real.
If you want to know more about our use of language, that we did a whole episode about it. You can go back and find that. But yeah, just honest, real language that isn't weird and foreign to us. It just comes naturally out of a life experience and an honesty. So apologies if we swear too much for you, but not sorry either.
Well, it's not designed to offend you.
No.
It's just us being real and letting it rip.
That's right.
And as my dad would have said, and here's your first swearing bit, Dad used to say regularly, rip your snake.
Yeah.
And I think, well, if you've grown up with rip your snake and dead as a dingo's donga, I mean, and I'm so thirsty I could drink the sweat of a sumo wrestler's jockstrap. If they're expressions you grow up with, mate, language.
Yeah.
They're just great words strung together.
Yep, and the words that we're worried about today didn't exist when the Bible was written. So,
No, that's right.
But let's leave that topic for another day. We're going to do Van Central. We haven't done that in a little while.
Yeah, play the music. You ready?
We'll hit the theme music.
Theme music now. Go. Thanks for having me, Jonty.
Yeah, anytime. Hit us with your... I mean, you're a co-host with me. It's weird when you're not here.
Sorry, it goes like this. My vent central is this. I've got a sore jaw. And I know all the piss take jokes that you could probably say about that.
Yeah.
I've got a really sore jaw and I've been suffering with like trigeminal nerve pain. The trigeminal nerve runs up through here and down through there in your face. If you can see us on the YouTube, it's in your face, on your cheek. And you can feel like your teeth are falling out because it affects all your teeth as well. And it's a nerve pain that's real, that Nurofen and Voltaren pills won't make go away. It's really debilitating. It's like the worst form of Chinese torture ever. It's just horrific and I hate it. And I've been having physio for it. And physio's expensive, Jonty. And it's not just like a one push on the jaw and, you know, massage your scalenes and hit your traps and then it'll go away. I've been dealing with this for quite a few weeks. But the vent central piece isn't necessarily about the musculoskeletal and nerve-related pain. The vent central piece is this, that I get the pain because I grind and clench my teeth at night. And I've been grinding and clenching my teeth at night because I've been stressed. And the stress of what I've been dealing with in an aspect of my ministerial life has just been so consuming. I've been operating in my day-to-day life thinking that I'm coping really well, but it manifests when I can't control it in my sleep time, right? So I said to Rob, my husband, do you hear me grinding my teeth? That must be so gross. And he said, no, I'm too busy snoring. I said, that's right. I'm wanting to bloody hit a fry pan over your head because all I can hear is you choking to death.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's never going to hear me grinding my teeth away. Must be such a gross sound anyway to hear teeth rubbing together.
I remember the really quick side note, staying over at a friend's house who has young kids and walking to go to the bathroom at night past his kid's bedroom and hearing the teeth through the door. Like it's the wildest sound ever. And my younger brother has used to have like the mouth plate thing that you put in your mouth to stop. Yeah. Just because if it's really bad.
I've got a plate.
Yeah, it can really, really affect your health. Yeah.
Oh, it's affecting my health.
And the noise is, I couldn't believe how loud it was from the grinding. Yeah.
Oh, how gross.
Yeah.
I should set up a camera and have a listen. It's really, really, really gross. But she said to me, the physio said to me, do you wear your plate? I said, yes, I wear my plate, but it ends up on my pillow because I must flick it out of my mouth in the night because I can't get a good clench. Do you know what? I'm not aware that I'm even doing it, Jonty. I just wake up with agonising face pain and it really pisses me off. It's like not something that I feel like I can control. But she did say to me, there are some things you can do. You can have a Botox injection. I'm thinking, oh, good, let's get that.
A few other things.
Have it all done. Can you do my crow's feet around my eyes and can you lift my jowls at the same time, love? She said, no, Vanessa, it just goes straight into the jaw. I said, oh, that sounds fun. Yeah. She said it dulls the muscle, then stops functioning and firing as aggressively as it does. And she said, the other thing you can do is, have you tried mindfulness? And I said, you are talking to the queen of anxiety over here, girlfriend. Mindfulness. Let me tell you about mindfulness. She said, but have you been doing a body scan lately? And I said, no, I haven't been doing a body scan lately. And I sort of kicked myself and I thought, shit, how long since I haven't done a body scan? I used to be addicted because it's the only way I could get to sleep at night when I was in the throes of suffering post-traumatic stress from my heart episode, couldn't sleep, loaded on drugs for anxiety, and the body scan was a way of helping me navigate sleep at the start of every night. Anyway, she said that to me and I sort of got the shits because it seemed like a really quick, easy thing, and I was a bit angry that there's this professional telling me, and I'm a professional and I know body scan, and you think you're telling me something I don't already know. So I go home and I download my app that I ditched, my Calm app, because I thought I don't need that anymore. I'm healed, Jonty, because I'm not mental anymore. And last night I laid there and did my Calm 7-day body scan, And I realised that my traps live up near around my ears because I'm so stressed and tense, not just in my sleep, but actually in my life. I sort of walk around with my traps elevated, and that causes the scalenes to contract, and that causes the jaw to be on fire, and then I go and clench at night, and no wonder I've got pain. So this is the new me, body scanned, calm version of myself, Jonty. But it's come about through great pain, and I'm hoping that I start to see some change in my jaw and my jaw pain.
Absolutely. We'll check in on future episodes to see how the jaw's going.
Yeah, ask me about that.
That's definitely
good. Yeah. So when people ask me at the moment, you know how people say, "How you going? Are you okay?" Oh, mate, have I got a story for them? Don't ask me if I'm okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise you get the jaw story.
That's right. Yeah. The Calm app is something that I haven't used in a couple of years now.
It's really good.
Yeah, I remember loving it, and then I think similar to you from what I'm hearing, got to a point where I thought I didn't need it anymore, so I got rid of it. So maybe I'll
give that a shot.
Give
it a go tonight. Text me and let me know how you go. I loved it. I actually did it driving to work, and I loved it so much. And she says, "And now close your eyes." And I'm thinking, "No, keep my eyes open." Wakehurst Parkway, sister, keep your eyes open. But I
close your eyes and go straight through the roundabout.
Right up the arse of the BMW. That's right. Not a laughing matter. But I found myself really peaceful driving up the Wakehurst. And I could feel all my muscles relaxing in my neck and my jaw and my chest. And I actually arrived at work ready for scripture, which is like on, psycho on steroids, 5-year-olds climbing with their snot noses all over you. That's a barrel of fun.
Yeah.
And I arrived actually in a really peaceful state. So I'm going to do it again, brother. I think it's a thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But she also said, and this is going to segue nicely into our topic today. She said, "Have you thought of going and having some therapy?" Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh, no, I hadn't. Thanks for the thanks for the tip.
It's like shit. Oh, please don't make me do that. It's my neck. Can't you? You're the physio. It's a neck and jaw thing. It's not a brain thing. But it's clearly a brain thing, Jonty.
Well, and they're all connected.
Yeah, it's big time. And I'm a bit pissed off about it, to be honest, because then I'm going to overshare now because this is segue.
That's what this show's for.
That's right. Because we're going to be talking about therapy and guilt and shame and all the bits in between.
Yep.
I felt really embarrassed about it, because I'm going for a musculoskeletal issue and I'm, ex-medical exercise specialist, so I was kind of knowing the anatomy as she's talking me through it all, and I'm feeling like, I can nail this and I can do the exercises. I used to teach these exercises. I know what I'm doing. But when she launches into, "And Ness, do you know that it's linked with mental health?" I'm going, oh, fuck. Really? I kind of knew it. And she said, "So what's the story there?" And I unpacked it a little bit for her, just, a small thing. It's no small, what's the word? No accident that I think it's my jaw, because I have sexual abuse trauma involving my mouth. And so I think when you've been silenced and your sexual abuse has involved your mouth, I think you're bound to grind, aren't you? You're bound to grind and clench, I think, as an outpouring of that grief and that suffering in a way. And I've recently been massively triggered by an event in my life, somebody that I really cared about, said some really hurtful words to me, and it's thrown me into a little bit of a spiral in a way, which is really upsetting. So I say to the physio, well, anyway, it's interesting. Some time ago when I'd experienced trigeminal nerve pain before, I went off and had a series of CAT scan of my brain and my cervical spine and mid-thoracic spine, just to make sure everything, did I have any lesions on my brain? I'm going, fuck. Mental health is one thing, but a lesion of the brain Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I'd rather be mental than have a lesion on my brain. Good news, it came back no lesions on the brain. And she said to me, "You've got no lesion on the brain." And I said, "Oh, praise God." She said, "Oh, why do you feel like that?" And I said, "Well, because you can fix mental, but lesions are harder to fix, right?" And then she said to me, the neurologist said to me, "You know, there is therapy for this, Vanessa." And I went, "Oh, not more therapy. How many years of therapy do I have to have, Jonty?" I think it's a lifetime thing, brother. It
Yeah.
really is. Pain and suffering. And then the worst part about that is I've already told the physio on my form that I filled in that I'm a reverend, and the neurologist knows I'm a reverend. And so I'm in ministry, and they do the small talk. "What do you do?" And I say, "I'm a minister of the church at Wallara Uniting Heart and Soul." And, you know, I'm meant to sound like I've got my shit together. I'm meant to sound that I'm a pillar of the community and that I've got it together because I'm a helper. I'm a person in the community that can help those that need the help. But actually I need help, you know, and I'm not always okay. And it makes me feel I carry some shame about that. And it makes me feel I don't know if the word's guilt. It's probably more shame sits in that little. It's such an insidious little feeling, shame. Such a prick. Can't be from God.
I always think of there's that show you may not have seen called Big Mouth, which is a animated show about kids going through puberty, and there are all the different things that kids go through when they go through puberty are anthropomorphized, whatever that word is, I can't talk today, into physical people or like creatures. So they have a hormone monster that follows them around.
Oh,
and
love
Shame
that.
is a character.
What does shame
And
look
Shame
like?
basically looks like Voldemort with like the cloak and like floats around. And it's a comedy, so it's like played up for laughs. But like the whole point of Shame is that Shame is voiced by, again, another Harry Potter reference, David Thewlis, who's Lupin in Harry Potter. His whole thing is to remind all the teenagers of all the horrible things they did all the time so that they feel shame, because then the shame stops them from talking to each other and it stops them from feeling things like happiness and love. So yeah, I mean, it's a definitely not a kid's show, but like I always think that the way that show represents those sorts of things is really helpful, because shame just shuts down all the positive communication lines that we have with other people.
Yeah.
Because yeah, my experience with therapy, like I remember as we're recording this, like the night before, talking to people about, like friends, about having been on antidepressants in the past, and still I haven't been taking antidepressants for almost 2 years now, still feeling like a pang of shame where like,
Wow.
you know, I'm very comfortable in myself and very comfortable as someone who is vulnerable about having gone through not great things in the past, but still being able to tell close friends that I was on antidepressants, there's that feeling of shame, because I think it is that thing where like, well, you don't want to admit that, like you like to picture yourself as someone that is strong and got it all together.
Yeah.
And so admitting that you're not all the time, yeah, that feeling of shame does creep in sometimes. Yeah.
That feeling of, how can I fix this? What's wrong with me that I can't make myself okay?
Yeah.
That I would be feeling this set of feelings. You know, it's pretty full on. I think for me also is that at the moment I'm studying hermeneutics, doing my master's, and I'm doing this final paper on trauma theory and trauma hermeneutics.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to choose a Bible passage or text to then unpack. And I've chosen the book of Esther. And I really felt prompted by God to pick that as my topic. And my lecturer said, "Oh, that's going to be, you've bitten off a lot there, Ness." And I said, yeah, okay, yeah, well, it's a pretty traumatic fucking book. And, you know, she was sex trafficked, and she's a young girl, and she's been forced into a sex camp, basically a harem, where she goes through a beautifying process to then be selected and forced to have sex non-consensually with this older man until he finds the right shag to marry, basically. After he's ditched his previous wife, Vashti, because she refused to parade in front of all in front of his pissed mates at a banquet with just her crown on, completely nude. She must have been shitting herself that she was going to be raped. So she said no to the king, and she got banished, and he ditched her. I think, and there's all this other trauma, lots of violence, threat of genocide to the Jewish race. It's like a horrific story. And I think in reading that, and I'm immersed in the readings for that, I think it's actually triggering up my own stuff, my own childhood memories. And it's interesting because I'm having to dive into a lot of psychology along with theology, because it's trauma theory that I'm actually writing on. And I'm actually reading things about survivors of child abuse and the psychology associated with it, Jonty, that I didn't previously know. I've been so busy living in my own trauma and just dealing with surviving my life and being as productive as I can be, that I haven't really cared to know about the psychology of it all. I just know what I know. I know my story, and that's all I care to know. Can you fix me, please? But I've had to delve into the psychology and what the shrinks say about it all. And I've been reading, and it was really overwhelming, actually, because they talk about memory, and they talk about how memory is, in survivors of child abuse, how memory is not linear and how it can be fragmented, and your memory of child abuse can come back in a way that is not how we normally remember things, happy events. And you know what, Jonty, I always wondered why my memory, I didn't know what I suspected. I thought I knew just from what I would call a gut feeling, but I wasn't sure of the order of the abuse events. I thought I might have known, and I remember in my police statement saying, I'm not sure of how these went, but these are the lumps of memory that I have, and I couldn't put them into like a chronological order. I just said, this is what here are the events. I think they went in this order.
Yep.
And I was reading this research, and I've gone, oh my God, I'm normal. Actually makes me really want to cry, because I realised how normal my brain is for somebody that suffered the trauma that I've suffered. And it was so healing to read it and to think, oh my God, it's kind of funny in a way, because I texted my prof and I said, hey prof, who would have thought writing this stupid fucking 5,000 word essay on hermeneutics would be quite healing for my own trauma? And he said, oh, God is amazing. He said some beautiful thing back to me. And I thought, yeah, God is so incredible. So I've got to tell you, that $4,000 for that subject, I'm going to get my money's worth, John.
But I think that's such a great point on, like, not necessarily a misconception of therapy, but like a reason why people can be resistant to therapy, and not even just therapy, but like more broadly being critical or introspective, or like really looking in at your own mental health in a kind of like trying to fix it or trying to diagnose things that are wrong, whether or not that's in actually a formal therapy setting. Is this like, well, I don't want to feel like it's almost like this, but I'm my situation, because it's only my subjective situation that I have experience of, must be special. Must be this like this is my experience has been like, well, my brain is super fucked up. Like, how is therapy going to help? Because therapy is this cookie cutter thing that won't fit on because I'm unique, I'm special, and I've had the worst experience ever, and they won't know. Whereas when you actually go through the process of sitting down with a professional, they can point out all of these different things and go, this is how the brain reacts to this traditionally. This is how your brain is reacting to this. This is how people react when people say this to people, and like all of these things, which when you start to internalize them, you can go, oh, in a good way, I'm not actually that special. This is a very normal process that my brain is going through in trying to, whether it's push things down or trying to rationalize things or
make sense of it,
or forgetting things, like your thing with the memory thing. Like that's a very
Yes,
maybe
it's
normal isn't the right word, but it's not weird.
No,
that's what's happening.
Apparently, it's not
exactly, and that's such a, like you said, such a healing thing, but also such a freeing thing where you kind of go, I'm not that
fucked up.
Yeah,
actually, my brain
I can
brilliant.
fix this, and I can get on top of it.
And my brain's actually really clever.
Yeah,
it's absolutely extraordinary.
That's like a protection mechanism.
And it even went so far as to talk about the kind of sexual abuse that I experienced. People can dissociate.
Yep.
That can split off. Their parts of their personality can fragment, and they launched right into that part of the psychology. Years ago, they used to call it multiple personality disorder.
Yep.
Now they call it something else, and I can't think of the acronym, but it means the same thing.
Yep.
And I thought, oh my gosh! And this psychologist talks about it as such a wonderful way that the brain does what the brain does to keep the individual together and stitched up.
Yeah.
And I used to think I was quite mental and crazy for being that way, but it's actually been I see it as quite a God thing, Jonty, and that God has, while that trauma was really disgusting, I'm almost at a place where I think I can say, thank you, Lord, that you protected me along the way. Because often people say, how can you be a Christian? Where was God when that happened? This shit thing happened to you. Where is God? God's the same, unchanged, always going to be who God is. I'll be chatting to him about it when I get to heaven, along with a whole bunch of things. One of those things will be my pelvic floor.
It's on the list.
Yeah, I've got a list of things. It's nose hair growth. Oh, mate, I got a list of things I'm going to ask God when I get to heaven.
Yeah.
But one of those things is about the amygdala and the brain and anxious thinking and multiple personality disorder and fragmenting of the mind and all of that. And I reckon I'm at a place where I could almost say, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, that you have, that experience was mine to have and to hold and to endure, but you were there and you gave me mechanisms so that I could cope and so that I could heal. Yeah, I've got a bit of a sore jaw at the moment, but that'll probably fix up in a couple of weeks and it'll settle down. And I will do more healing on the process because the jaw's come up, right? The jaw has come up, and so therefore I'm forced to have to do some work, whereas before I wouldn't have probably done the work that I'm going to have to do at the moment. And the jaw's just a way of the body going, okay, you're grinding, you're stressed, your body needs to deal with a little bit more stuff that's flushing up to the surface.
That's one of the really, really critical things that I learned is paying attention to your body.
Yeah.
As opposed to paying attention to your mind.
Yep.
As, you know, through my experience of, particularly with post-traumatic stress disorder, paying attention to your body as opposed to what your brain is telling you, because your brain can lie to you, your body can't lie to you. So panic attacks is the perfect example. Listening to, oh, my heart rate is suddenly up. Oh, I'm sweating. Oh, my head's spinning and I can't focus on anything.
Yeah.
Listen to that as opposed to, whatever your brain is manifesting at that time. And so the jaw is a great example of your body is saying something that something isn't quite right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me, often that's that manifests for me in panic attacks often, but it's also like a gut feeling often as well, like that when your stomach just drops, you're like, something isn't right here. My brain isn't telling me what it is, but my body is saying, listen up, something's wrong. That's super, super, super valuable to know that, because I think a lot of the time we kind of can push those physical symptoms of something is wrong to one side.
It's a shameful feeling, though, I feel.
Yes.
For me, I feel shame around it. And I had a Mother's Day thing. I was at lunch with my family after a big morning of church and stuff, and I got all this pain, this nerve pain in my jaw. I turned my head to look at one of my daughters, and I got this massive nerve pain and down into my teeth, and one of my daughters, Aurora, is really tuned into me and my anxiety. She suffers from anxiety, and I think she just knows when I split off or shift out or something goes. My amygdala fires. I think she's got like a tune in for that.
Yeah.
So Amy G goes off. Whatever I do when that happens, she picks up on. I don't know what that is, but I feel it happen. So it's like, it's not a panic attack because I've had that in the past, but it's like Amy G goes off. I think I'm going to die. And I then pick up my glass of Prosecco and try to pretend nothing's wrong. Meanwhile, they're all there to celebrate Mother's Day, and I just want to burst into tears and go, I've had nerve pain flashing down my left jaw. Maybe I'm having a heart attack. Maybe I'm having a stroke. I think I'm going to die. But I don't say that because I don't want my family to think I'm fucked up and mental. They already think it. They don't want to say it. But I disappear for a moment. I don't know if that happens when you have a panic attack, but I like disappear. And Aurora said to me, then I pull it back together, and I think nobody knows what's going on, but I've missed a whole bunch of the conversation because I've zoned into wherever I go. And I'm driving home with Slink, and she says, Mum, what happened during lunch? And I said, I tried to bullshit to her. What do you mean what happened during lunch? Oh, the bolognese was beautiful. She said, no, Mum, you can't bullshit me. What happened? And I go, I had a pain in my jaw. And she said, I knew it. I knew it, Mum. I saw you disappear. Why don't you just say, I'm disappearing right now. I'm not coping, fam. We all know, Mum. We all knew it. We gave each other the look. We knew. It's like, oh, fuck, it's because I feel so shameful.
Yeah.
It's horrible, Jonty.
Yeah. I've had one experience in particular that sticks out to me where I was in the green room at Churchland, we call it the vestry.
Yep.
Before going out to lead worship.
Yep.
And having an absolute, I was about to say a bad word, like the worst panic attack I've ever had in my life. That sticks out to me as one of the worst ones I ever had.
Wow.
And similar thing, like just the rest of the world just like vanishes.
Yep.
And you're like, I'm going to die right now. That's what's about to happen.
Feels it, doesn't it?
And this was like 3 minutes before the service starts, right? And a few other people are coming and going, getting ready for the service or whatever. And generally 3 to 5 minutes before the service, anyone that's involved, so like musicians, minister, sound tech, we'll get together and have a pray before, and we'll center ourselves and pray before the service. So everyone comes in and I'm just like, I have to leave. And, oh, why? Everyone kind of looked at me like, what's the deal? That's a bit weird. And then they looked at me and went, oh, get out of here. And so I left. But like the whole church is there.
Yeah.
And they know that I'm leading worship.
Yeah.
So I just walk out and leave and drive home.
Oh, Jonty, you mean leave?
Like I left.
Oh, like left. Elvis has left the building.
And
oh, man.
Some of the people that were there, they knew. And they're like, go home. We can cover this. But the shame involved with everyone seeing that
is
like off the charts, right?
Yeah.
And that's almost harder to reconcile or to deal with than the panic attack itself.
Yeah, I know.
Because the panic attack passed.
Yeah.
It stuck around for a while, but it did pass.
3 minutes max.
Yeah, exactly. But
90 seconds, I think, actually, isn't it? 90 seconds and you come down the other side, but it feels like eternity.
Yeah, that one felt like
20 minutes.
It felt like a couple of hours, to be honest. But yeah, the shame involved in that's still there. Like even telling that story, I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. Because I can picture even though I completely disassociated in that moment, I can picture so vividly exactly who was in that room.
Yep.
Because it's just burnt into my brain that they saw me in that vulnerable space.
Mm.
And that's like, the shame in that is really, really hard to deal with.
I wonder what we do with that.
I think it's bullshit.
Yeah.
I think it's bullshit.
The shame feeling.
The shame is bullshit.
Yeah.
I think shame.
Do you think it's mwahaha coming to
maybe.
rob us of peace and joy?
For people that don't know the mwahaha reference, that's Ness's word for the devil or Satan. I don't. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know, but I think it's not irrational, but I think it's unhelpful.
So unhelpful.
Because ultimately, the result of that was actually people who haven't in the past been have never one-on-one asked me how I was going, started asking me how I was going.
After that.
Because they saw.
Yeah.
Even people that were just sitting in the pews ready to go saw that, something was really wrong. Yeah. Maybe they just assumed I was sick or I got a phone call, but whatever. But people followed up, like, are you okay? And some of them I, slightly bullshit and just gave a little answer that deflected the conversation. Some of them I actually had a really great conversation with.
Yeah.
The shame can get in the way of that and stops that from happening. Whereas... I think the shame comes from, for me, the shame comes from this sudden realization that people saw me vulnerable.
Yeah.
As if that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I actually think that is overwhelmingly a positive thing in the long run for people to see other people vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because it just is taking a sledgehammer to this, frankly, bullshit myth that we hold that leaders need to be invincible.
Powerhouses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I say that because I was in a position of leadership at that point.
Yeah.
But in any situation,
Yep.
this bullshit idea that I think as a society and as a culture, we're actually starting to tear that down. And we have been for a while. But it is still there. And we know it's still there because we still feel shame when we're vulnerable.
Yeah.
So I actually think a lot of the time for me, when I start to feel shame about things, the challenge then is to lean into it and be honest and push through the shame. Because on the other side of the shame is this really, really raw vulnerability that brings healing. Yeah.
I wonder, how with mental health, someone fabulous came up with Are You OK Day?
Yeah.
And we now ask, are you okay? And it is often in reference to your mental health.
Yes.
And it's I can see the big yellow logo.
Text, yep.
Yeah, it's great. I wonder if we could start a movement, Jonty, and it could start right here today, something to do with shame and slamming shame and putting a big kicking shame in the arse, and I wonder if by being able to say something positive about being vulnerable in the moment, then that becomes a great thing as opposed to a shame-associated series of feelings. If we would if we could start that.
Yeah, totally. I'm something that jumps to mind is on The Basement with Tim Ross. One of his mantras is that vulnerability is his superpower. For exactly that reason.
So all you'd have to do is, if we were feeling the feeling, and you and I both know what the feeling feels like, you could actually articulate it if we had language around it and just say, actually, I'm feeling really vulnerable right now. And it's a bit of a grey space. It feels filthy.
Yeah, it does.
But I know on the other side of it, there is hope.
Yeah.
And I will be okay. But thanks for asking. I'm just the big V right now.
Sorry, what?
Not vagina, not Vanessa, but vulnerable.
Yeah. But I think it's also really important that that's part of a transaction, and there's the other side of that transaction is really important. And something that I've found is that it's really, really easy to respond to people being vulnerable by joking about it.
I know. You'll be fine.
But not even that, but more like in a self-deprecating kind of way. It might be a generational thing, but I notice a lot of younger people self-deprecating humor, especially at the expense of our mental health, is very, very, very common.
Wow.
Like, oh, I'm so depressed. Like when.
But are they depressed?
Well, when you're in spaces of vulnerability, when you're sharing, and like that is pretty common. And it's not that is unhelpful. It's a coping mechanism, because I think a lot of us, we've just been explaining, are uncomfortable about sharing vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
But being able to actually sit with that and receive the vulnerability in a way that is honouring the other person and making them feel safe for having shared.
Oh, see, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's right. And affirming their vulnerability.
Exactly.
That's so important.
Because it's really, really scary stepping out and being vulnerable like that. And if you're in a situation where you do that, on the one hand, of course, you've got dickheads who are going to make fun of it or dismiss it or gaslight you into saying that that's not real or whatever. There's the very clear-cut dickheadedness that you can run into as a result of that. But I'm actually talking about the well-intentioned but maybe unequipped or unprepared people who suddenly don't know how to respond to that.
Because it makes them feel vulnerable.
It makes them feel uncomfortable and vulnerable and am I the right person to receive this?
Right.
Am I the right person to help this? I don't know how to respond to this. Yep. All these are they're all things that I think will experience at some point in our life. And so actually, as well as being on the one hand able to go, I'm actually going to be vulnerable with people. On the other hand, actually thinking about when, and you could think about it, if there are 3 or 4 people in your life that you are really close with, how would I react in a way that's helpful and affirming to those people if they were to come to me and be vulnerable? Because the first part of being vulnerable, I think, is only part of it. You need to then be met by someone who can hold that.
Yeah, an empathetic witness.
Yeah,
it's got to land well.
And if you are vulnerable with someone and they're not that person, a lot of the time that's not on them. They're just not the right person. Maybe they're not in the right place to receive that vulnerability in a way that's helpful. And that can be painful, but that's the risk of being vulnerable. It's like asking a girl out. The risk of being turned down is a real risk.
Yeah.
But unless you take the risk,
you'll never know.
You'll never know.
Yeah. Can I just tell you, bit of feedback, brother?
Yeah.
You're a really safe person to be vulnerable with.
Oh, thanks.
I be vulnerable all the time around you.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
And it lands safely with you. And I'm very grateful for you in my world for that very reason.
I'm glad.
Yeah, I've got only a handful of people that's a thing, and you just seem to know all the right beautiful words to hold the vulnerability that is always linked with some level of shame.
Yeah.
You're able to kind of, I don't know, just you wash away the chaff and just leave the vulnerability sit there and somehow make it look like a nugget of gold, like Gator. You do.
I'm glad.
Gold.
I'm glad.
I'm very grateful.
I'm glad I could. I would hate to be the person for anyone who they're scared to be vulnerable with, or they go, I'm not going to share with that person because they're not going to get it.
I suppose that's why you're in ministry, Jonty.
I guess so.
That's why you're in ministry.
I guess so.
It's a bit of a gift, mate. It's definitely a gift.
Yeah. But
What an episode.
so, I mean, you've just shared something you're grateful for. Is there anything else while we're here? We could do some gratitude.
Yeah, I am. I'm grateful that at Wellness HQ, our wellness centre at Double Bay, we actually have expanded our program, and tomorrow we've got 2 interns starting with us under the guidance of our amazing psychologist, Julie Ryan. And we're just so pumped because we're able to expand our services so that now that we've got 3 people on board, it's absolutely unreal. So we can take on more clients, and we're really super excited about where this is going and the model that we're creating and how we're able to help vulnerable, broken, complex trauma cases in our community. And that feels like we're doing something amazing in the name of Jesus. And that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for my community at Willara Double Bay trusting in this vision to be able to throw the finance at it, to be able to let it crack open, because that was big.
Yeah,
for that community.
That's huge. I can't think of a Uniting Church that's done anything to that scale.
Yeah,
in this area.
I'm not sure, but it feels great to be able to help people in that way, in such a tangible way, and not ask anything in response, anything for it. So we don't ask for an exchange of money. We just do it because we're being the hands and feet of Christ in the community. And I reckon Jesus just like goes, hey, shit, that's cool.
I'm always reminded with wellness, Wellness HQ, when we had Simon on the podcast earlier in the year, we talked about whenever the church arrives anywhere to help, it becomes the centre. But God is always at work on the edges.
Yeah.
And the challenge for people in the centre is being willing to send time and money and resources to the edges without necessarily seeing the results in the centre.
Yeah, 100%.
I before you went there, I was going to jump in and say that I'm grateful for our council and our community for being willing to do that.
Yeah.
Because we don't see the immediate benefits of, like, it's not like an investment where we're waiting for
bums on seats on Sunday.
Yeah, and it's certainly not a financial investment that we're going to see.
It costs.
Like, it costs, right? Yeah. But
it costs big money.
But it's resources and energy and time and people going out to the edge, away from the centre, not necessarily for the benefit of the centre, but for the benefit of the edges.
And the benefit of God's people.
That's right.
All of God's people.
Because God's out there working on the edges.
He is, yeah. It's just so great. I'm super grateful for that. It's bloody fantastic, Jonty. Who would have thought?
Yeah. So, I mean, as good a time as any to plug Wellness HQ. If you know anyone that needs help, check out the website.
Give me a ring.
Call Ness, check the website, email.
Yep.
I'm sure there's an email address on the website that you can get 100%. In contact with. Or even if, like, not necessarily with Wellness HQ, if you think you need therapy, just do it. Go see a GP, get a mental health plan.
Yes.
Like, we're both huge advocates of therapy.
Brilliant.
I nothing annoys me more. Well, actually, that's not true. I get annoyed very easily, but it annoys me to no end when I hear Christians saying that therapy is for weak Christians that just need to have more faith.
Oh.
Therapy is so important.
I'd love to have one of those people on our podcast.
That'd be great. I'd love that. I would love that. We don't have enough disagreement on this show. Like healthy, rugged, good disagreement.
Yeah, I'd love that one. That'd be a fun topic.
Absolutely. I'd love to have an atheist on.
Yeah.
I have no, I don't balk at any of that. I think that would be exciting. That'd be so exciting.
Be a robust conversation.
Absolutely.
Gator in the middle, Jonty.
Yeah, he can mediate.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today.
Hey, mate, you're a co-host. You'll hear whether I like it or not.
I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me, Ness. Thanks for having me.
You're funny, Jonty. Confident.
Yeah, thanks for listening. I hope this was helpful. I'm sure I've said this at the beginning, but we're not mental health professionals. So, yeah, go and seek professional help if you need it. Yeah, thanks for listening. We will see you next week. If you feel like helping us out, you can just leave a review on Apple. That kind of helps. I was shocked when I was looking into how much of that stuff helps, just in terms of how the algorithm works and getting it on people's feeds. So if you want to help us, that's the easiest way of doing that. We're looking into some other things moving forward. When this comes out, our live show will be coming up very soon. But if you miss it, last Saturday of every month. So there'll be a link below. Check it out. We'd love to hang out with you. You can talk to us directly. We have audience Q&As, we have guests, we have food, we have
cheese
drink,
and wine.
we have live music.
It's fun.
It's a good time. So we hope to see you there. If you don't live in Sydney, keep watching the show, I guess. But who knows? Maybe we will take it.
Oh, I might go on the road.
Take it on the
Jonty.
road. Yeah. That'd be cool. Anyway, yeah. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. I'm Jonty.
I'm Ness.
This is Filthy Hope. Bye.